Right from the very first moment that we came to visit, it felt very supportive. The atmosphere felt like it cared for each child as an individual. So that was kind of reason number one. The second reason was in terms of the breadth of facilities that were available. So both from kind of sports, the music, food technology and things like that. And then the other piece for us was around the emphasis on, yes, there's a base level and it's a very high base level of kind of academic education, but actually the extracurricular side of things and the emphasis that was placed on more than just, getting grade A's, but actually the child as an individual.
The first time we came, we had friends who had their children here, so obviously it was a personal recommendation, but it wasn't our sole basis, and I think we were really delighted with how everything was. I particularly liked the size of the campus, sort of like the green area in the middle of the city is quite rare, so that was a good thing. The kids got a lot of space to run around in, which they need at that age. They both joined in reception, so I think for both of them it was the right time for them to start school. So it was quite an easy start for them as well, because it was the right age. Whereas I think some children are ready for foundation earlier or other things, but for them it was more of a natural progression to start reception as they did.
But I think the sole reason that we kind of chose them to join was linked to the reasons we just talked about around why we'd recommend to others. But actually, I think it was right from the very first experience when they come for their little assessment, in terms of both of them, and knowing that there was an older sibling, but being treated as individuals. It wasn't this, oh, well, your brother's already in the school and therefore. And we've noticed that with our daughter, that actually, yes, they've even been through the same teachers, but they're definitely not treated the same. And I think for me, that was really, really important. It's about the child as an individual. And that's what you get the benefit of the smaller class sizes compared to a state school. And then also the level of teachers, teaching assistants, particularly in the early years, is far higher ratio than you would get. And therefore they do get that individual care and attention.
I think the teaching is exceptional. So when they're in pre-prep, it's a bit more tailored to that age, and the class teacher will tend to be teaching them all the subjects. And then once they get to pre-prep, it's a lot more specialised. So they'll still have that support with the form teacher. It's specialist teachers teaching them the different subjects. And there's a myriad of advantages of that. But I feel the main thing is that they've got experts in their field teaching them the specific subjects. And as a result, they come on in leaps and bounds. And I think it's a really good way of doing it as well, because you get a different method of teaching, which is also, it's an important thing in life that you learn different ways of doing things. So yes, so I think the teaching is very good.
I also agree the quality of the teaching is exceptional. Is in relation to if there is a change in teacher, for whatever reason, that's actually very, very open in terms of preparing the children for that and the transition around it. Also with the moving up day that they do each year to get used to the new form teacher, and the way in which actually in terms of classes, there's 3 form entry at the moment, but actually each year they medal up the children in relation to that. And I think that's really important, not only the way in which they're taught, but who they are learning with, and actually learning that if you want to get on with something, sometimes you might have to ignore your friend or do whatever, and actually the child finds their own way through. The key kind of resources or facilities, I think, is the campus itself. The fact that it's all on one campus, it's very near the city centre, which should be quite unusual, but the amount of green space, as my husband talked about earlier. So it's the fact that you get a range of facilities across the sports side of things, music, food technology. They've got a forest school, the other areas of it. It's all done in the same place. And I think that makes a real difference in terms of that quality of they're not having to spend half an hour going on a bus to go and play football somewhere, or they can't do food technology at school, or even the range of it that actually they can't do it very often because they've got to rotate it through the different children. And the other part that's really important is in relation to the kind of the provision of the iPads, the tablets, and how they're used and encouraged not only in terms of that's the way in which they're going to work in, they're going to be less with a pen and paper than we were necessarily, but also the coding and the use of AI and the data security and cyber security and awareness that goes through all of that as well. It's the real world kind of facilities and resources that make the difference.
Yeah, I think I'd reinforce that point as well, that because everything is based on the campus, and you've got a lot of advantages in terms of how many opportunities the kids are given to try different stuff. So maybe after school clubs, there's so many different options. And in fact, at the end of it, towards the end of every term, when next term's options come available, and it can change on a termly basis, it's really good for them. Then you're sort of trying to decide, well, logistically how you can fit what in and where, but also everyone, no matter who they are, there is something that they'll enjoy. And
certainly our two, I think, have a real excitement that when that next term's clubs come out, what do we want to do? What works with where, does this clash with this? Can they continue with this? And it really is a family sit down to kind of decide, because there is such an array of choices of really good activities to add into what they get to experience within the school day as well.
I'll give you an example. So our son, he started doing fencing at Hallfield, and as a result, he now is a member at Birmingham Fencing Club and has been doing that for years and does competitions and all this sort of thing. And, we would never have come across fencing in a million years outside of the school environment. So things like that are fantastic.
I think the key way in which Hallfield's contributed is in terms of confidence. And that comes from a quality of the teaching, or the teachers, as well as the teaching, plus the smaller class sizes and the whole facilities and the extracurricular activities on offer. Particularly with our son, who probably, being the elder child, he hasn't got a sibling to follow in relation to that. So actually giving him the confidence to try different things, do it with his friends and or smaller groups, and move on from there. And I think for me, that's one of the key things that he and his sister have certainly gained from being at Hallfield.
Well, I think it's just their general development, but certainly if you were to pick out key moments, Hallfield does a gold card system. So they've both had quite a few gold cards over the years. And then they've also both received awards at the speech day. And memorably, our son got an award from an astronaut, and that's quite something. But also that they've both got these awards on speech day for their behaviour. It's been about their personal development, which I think it should be rewarded when it is good.
And I think whilst they're the proud moments of, seeing your child up on the stage in the Great Hall at Birmingham University in front of, 1,000 people or whatever, it's that everything that's been recognised to get to that stage, as my husband says, in terms of it's about the behaviour, the attitude, and actually you can see it in both our children. Yes, it's lovely to come first in the spelling test or top of the class in maths, but actually they know that what's really rewarded, both at school, and I think it's across life in general, is actually how you behave, how you interact with others. Are you helpful? Are you courteous? And actually, for me, all of the academic element is there, that they're doing really well in those sides of it, but it's that extra piece of how are they going to develop and get on in the world itself.